For more on this, we're now being joined by Professor James A. Russell. He is an associate professor in the Department of National Security Affairs at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey. So thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Now, Professor, I want to begin by asking you, we've seen how tensions have gradually escalated, rather exponentially escalated between Israel and Hezbollah. The focus for now seems to have shifted from Hamas and Gaza. That being said, Israel has suffered heavy casualties as well. Do you think this is a pattern that will continue? Do you think this is something Israel should brace itself for as the war on the Lebanon front escalates?
I think this is absolutely the case. I think that the events of today remind us of two regrettable but timeless truisms of war. The first is that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. As the Israeli ground troops discovered this today when they wandered into Lebanon, I'm sure they did lots of planning for this, but did they anticipate everything that they could encounter? The answer is no. And the second lesson, and again a regrettable truism, is that political and military leaders tend to overestimate the impact of bombs and long-term bombardment. Political leaders, I think, and their populations are seduced by the images that we see on our televisions of bombed buildings and flattened blocks and so on and so forth. And we equate that to sort of this idea of victory. And this is not the case. Standoff bombardment has almost never delivered the desired strategic effect, which in this case, I think, from the Israeli perspective, means the defeat of Hezbollah. And this is not going to be achieved through standoff bombardment. It's instead going to be achieved, if it can be achieved, I don't believe the IDF has the capacity to do this, is to overrun the dug-in Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon. And I think this is beyond the capabilities of the IDF.
Professor, you spoke about the IDF's capabilities and its capacity. At this point, there is Hamas in the south, there's Hezbollah in the north. Iran has carried out, the 200 missiles which came from Iran. IRGC has already claimed those. And then you have the off and on missiles or drones which come in from the Houthis all the way from Yemen. Has Israel bitten off more than it can chew at this point?
Well, again, the interesting, in a bad kind of way, sense of this is that Israel has embarked upon a standoff strike war against 4 or 5 different adversaries, depending upon how you measure it. And I don't see any strategic effect or strategic result coming from this exchange. What does Israel hope to achieve from a strategic perspective by raining down some missiles in Iran and raining down missiles around the Baghdad airport and doing to Beirut what it's already done in Gaza? And vice versa, the same is true for the other side. It's what can actually be achieved strategically by a few missiles coming from the Houthis and the Iranians firing missiles at Iran. In other words, this is in some respects, again, we have to look back in history, in the 1980s when Iran and Baghdad engaged in what we know as the War of the Cities, in which they lobbed their long-range missiles at one another's capitals for several years to no strategic result. So the point is that this exchange of fire is going to continue until, I guess, the antagonists run out of ammunition or get tired of it. I don't see a strategic result coming from this exchange.
Again, the exchange of fire is not going to reach any kind of peace. If it can happen, it has to happen through dialogue and diplomacy. Of course, peace talks have completely taken the exit at this point, with all sides seeming highly antagonized. But here's hoping that there is some peace, or peace is achieved at the earliest. That's one thing that one can all hope for only. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor. That was Professor James A. Russell joining us from Monterey.
Thank you.